So finally, the Premier League starts tomorrow with Arsenal playing my team, Leicester City, on Friday night. And obviously with that comes fantasy football implications. A new season starts for everybody. We can all get excited if our team is not perhaps going to win the Premier League or be involved in that, or is in a different division. This is always a good chance to have some bit of banter with buddies. I've always enjoyed doing fantasy football. I tended to do all right in it. I managed to win my league last year, which I was quite pleased with. So I thought I'd share some sort of tips and advice and strategy with regards to what you should do with your fantasy football team. I know there's loads of stuff out there, but I just thought I'd show you some of mine, do's and don'ts that you kind of need to think about when you put your team together, particularly last minute. You've got 24 hours to basically get it done. So I'll start with the do's. I think first and foremost, you need to find at least 5 proven Premier League players who score well in fantasy football, and you need to do it throughout your team. Don't just go for the glory boys up front, 3 amazing strikers, and then just filling your team with a bunch of nobodies just because you've overspent up front. I would always try and find at least one very good proven Premier League scorer. So, your Harry Kanes, your Lukaku's, your Aguero's of this world, get one of those in. A couple of decent midfielders, your De Bruyne's, Dele Alli, Eriksen, Hazard, those types, and then 1 or 2 defenders. And with defenders, it's not just keeping clean sheets; it's those who can perhaps contribute either by scoring free kicks. So fullbacks are always quite good. Fullbacks of decent defending teams. Azpilicueta is probably the best bet at this stage, given what he does for Chelsea, and they tend to keep clean sheets. And then with keepers, you just need a solid keeper. Doesn't need to be the best keeper out there, but you need to be in a team that's not going to let too many shots in, and it's quite a good shot stopper. Somebody Forster at Southampton or Butland at Stoke is a quite good sort of cheaper, and in fact I'll come on to those guys later on. You don't have to necessarily go for De Gea or Lloris, who are a bit more expensive, although keepers are not too bad. I think the other thing to obviously be aware of is, for a lot of leagues, and I play in the DreamTeam league for example, European matches count, so try and find as many players as you can that are going to play in European teams. Now, I know that's not always possible because they tend to be more expensive, but you can find some decent bargains in there. You just have to look at guys like Fellaini, who won't necessarily play all the time, but he's quite cheap, and Dream Team is only 3 million, which for a midfielder is actually not that expensive at all. So as your kind of 3rd or 4th midfielder, he's definitely worth a punt because he's going to be playing enough games that it's better than trying to go for a star of a team that's going to be in the bottom half of the league and not really going to be contributing too much. So sort of think about those that, not necessarily the stars that are going to be playing in Europe, but those who are perhaps on the periphery of the first team. Another classic one is Fabregas and Mata as well, getting another United player. They tend to be sort of quite good value for money. I think also try and think about players who are coming back from injury but have a pedigree, or they might be coming sort of second season at a new club. They're always worth looking out for. They're not a huge amount of these types of characters, but there's always 1 or 2 out there. I think kind of the main one that I've been thinking about quite a lot is Berahino. Obviously, he was really disenchanted at West Brom and finally got a move away at Stoke. He didn't really do a great deal back end of last year, but I think he's an absolute bargain. I think he's only 1.5 million. So if you have overspent, which we all do, in certain areas of your game, you can kind of make it up for having him in there. Because in Dream Team, I'm just getting up now, he's 1.5 million, which is nothing for a striker who could potentially and has pedigree of scoring at least 10 plus goals. So he's definitely worth a punt, and he's going to play as well. So you sort of kind of guaranteed on that point of view. And I think kind of one of the final do's is, again, I've mentioned this at the beginning, don't just pick any old defenders and cheapo defenders. More and more defenders are actually quite important in fantasy football. It always used to be you needed a couple of good strikers and a couple of good midfielders, and that would get you through it. Have Lampard and Gerrard, job done. Defence is important, so you can't just line your defenders with a bunch of Brighton and Hove Albion defenders, because they just will not get it done for you. You've got to sort of think a bit more strategically about your defenders, and just try and find fullbacks. I would always say try and find fullbacks because they generally take a lot of free kicks, and they're involved in crossing balls, etc. So you're going to get a fair few assists throughout a season, and there are a couple of decent bargains out there. A few don'ts for you. Don't fill your team with the latest big transfers that have just come through. It's really easy to go nice new shiny objects and then just throw in like Lacazette or Morata. They're going to take some time to bed in the season. They may well be worth you bringing in halfway through the season once they're getting into their stride. Don't bother starting them from the beginning of the season. Rarely works. I would always say leave them. Just try the sort of tried and tested method is definitely the way forward at the beginning of the season. Don't be a homer. It's so easy to be a homer. If you're a United fan, just fill it full of United players because that's easiest. Just really try and think a bit more strategically about it. Sometimes it is the best way forward, but where at all costs, try and be objective. Stay away from risk-reward players. It's an obvious one. I think the classic example is Sturridge at Liverpool. What a player, but he spends more time injured than he does. He sort of flatters to deceive for 2 games and then he's out for 6 weeks, which just can sort of crucify a team if he's not playing. Particularly again, this is Dream Team related. If your player is not playing, you don't have any substitutes, you are in trouble. So you need to make sure that you've got players that are definitely going to play. And then I think at this stage, sort of steer away from any players that are kind of rife in transfer speculation. I think the obvious ones are like Coutinho, Danny Rose and Van Dijk at Southampton. For a couple of reasons. Firstly, they may not play because emotionally they might not be in the right state of mind to play. And secondly, if they do play, how well are they going to play? There's always that kind of motivation. I think you kind of need to get August out of the way. And then when September's in and you kind of know that the squad is set, then you can kind of go more about your sort of strategy about bringing those types of players in. So I'll kind of always steer away from those types of individuals. And then again, I've touched on it a couple of times, just don't neglect your defence or your goalkeeper. They will get you lots of points and they will sink your team if you have a not very good bunch of people down there. That's kind of really it, really. So sort of basic strategy of some do's and don'ts about what to do and what not to do. I think the other thing to really remember is it's a 9-month season. I see it so often that people get like frustrated and disenchanted because they don't get off to a good start, or some team like romps it at the beginning and you just a couple of your mates just happen to have the striker that scored 6 goals in 7 games or whatever, so they sort of kind of romp it away. I came back from 200 points down after Christmas to win my league last year. Just shows just keep your eye in, don't worry about it. It'll be, and just have fun with it. Doesn't matter what the end results are. I'm going to leave you with a couple of bargains and people that I think you need to be aware of moving forward. I'll start with goalkeeper Butland. He was injured most of last season, so didn't get many points. He's not crazy expensive. Stoke don't let a lot of goals. He's a good shot stopper. He'll get you points. From a defence perspective, again, I'm going a bit down Stoke route here. Kurt Zouma. So Kurt Zouma's signed from Chelsea with Stoke on loan for the season. He's a good defender. I think he's going to play. They've got a pretty solid defence. They don't let him many goals. So again, he's not bad. And he scores the odd one. He scored a few headers with Chelsea over the years. So he might be not a bad little bet. Punt, and he's at 3 million. Midfield, I've touched on a few. So Matt and Fellaini at United are quite like at 3 million. Fabregas are quite like at 4 million. So he's really came on towards the back end of last year. So he's definitely worth keeping an eye on. And up front, I think the biggest bargain is Berahino. I think he really could be a bargain of 1.5 million. My final one, he's not, I wouldn't say necessarily bargain, but I really think he's going to be good this year, and that's Gabriel Jesus at Man City. He's 5 million, so he's less than Aguero. I know Aguero is clearly quality, but when Jesus was fit, Jesus was definitely the sort of that apple of Guardiola's eye over Aguero. Now the two of them can play together, but I just think he is going to be quality. Anyway, enjoy the season. Hope you do well. If you're in my leagues, hope you don't do too well, because I'm planning on winning them again. And yeah, enjoy the football and go Leicester. Cheers.